the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we have approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda for the November 17, 2020 regular meeting as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have public participation. Board members and administrators will listen to concerns and respond when appropriate by mail or telephone at a later date. We will not be able to respond to your questions at this time. The purpose of this session is for us to listen to you and give you the opportunity to share with us. Per policy BDDH1, public participation in board meetings, the following guidelines and procedures will be followed. In order to speak during public participation, a public comment form must be filled out and submitted to the board president prior to the beginning of the meeting. The public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once, and each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. I don't have any emails or public comment. Next, we have a report from the superintendent.
Good evening. Well, as you can tell, I went to Thanksgiving thing. Yes, you did. You know, it's almost the day. You do have, I believe, one note of appreciation in your board packet. I have some data here from parent-teacher conferences that were held on October 29th. These are the numbers and the percentage for this year only. On the next slide, I'll do a comparison of this year and last year's data. So for Bloomsdale and St. John Elementary, we captured data for pre-K through grade 5. Middle school is 6 through 8, and the high school is 9 through 12. So if you look at the comparison, you see that Bloomsdale Elementary, their participation rate was down a little bit. St. John Elementary was slightly up, the middle schools was up, and the high schools was down. The way that they achieved these conferences, there were some that took place in person, but there were also conferences that took place virtually through Zoom meetings and a variety of different ways. So that's how we achieved participation this year. Any questions on this data?
Given the circumstances, I think it was pretty good.
I agree, yes. Under the circumstances, it was pretty, really good. Next item I have are the virtual reports. This is Zeus, are you going first?
I think we were first.
Let's see. Yeah,
I might have to stand really close, but that seems really far away to me. My mask on, hopefully you can hear me. We've been busy with, the students did a week-long study on the election and the government, and they voted in their own classrooms, they had their own polls. It's been really nice weather out, so we've been taking advantage of like the courtyard and the outside classroom, things like that. So are giving them as much air as they can. We had Red Ribbon Week, and we had Camo Day, Wacky Wednesday, and we had Halloween costume day, Red Ribbon Week, and then our third grade got to participate in the presentation from the sheriff's department with the drug dog, and they did that in the outdoor classroom, so they could be out in the open air and not the gym. And then for Veterans Day, we celebrated all week all the teachers were Care Bears, and Coach didn't want to be a Care Bear, so he was a bear hunter. Yeah, that was good. We've had November staff boosters. We're trying to encourage each other, keep each other positive throughout the building. We wanted to thank you for the PD Day on November 2nd. It was amazing to see how many experts we have in the building on those technology pieces. We had several teachers sign up to present to other teachers, and we heard a lot of chatter about, oh my gosh, I can't believe you can do that. And, will you show me this later? And so it was amazing. They learned a lot that day. Thank you. We have building WIGs, which is wildly important goals, and our building is focusing on math again this year. And in each classroom, they have their own individual math goals. Like it could be that one student is learning how to count by fives, and one student is learning how to write his numbers, and one student is learning how to add 2 or 3 digits together. But they each have their own individual math goals, and they're doing their lead measures and tracking that. We have action teams, which are the adults in the building, and they focus on student learning, the learning environment, student leadership, and family learning. So those action teams are underway. The family event that we have coming up is a virtual Polar Express. We are going to send home items in a bag, and each family has enough items in the bag to do an activity every day of that week. And then they submit a picture of that activity, and at the end of the week, they get their name put in a drawing for a prize. We have positive office referrals. In the top left-hand corner is Lincoln and Jackson Brown. And then across the row is Alex Tersanchi, Marcy Witu, Haley Lane, Lily Braun, Easton Moon, and Fiona Gilbert, and Ellie Bolton. That's it. Bloomfield. Thank you.
Good evening. So, I'm starting off the St. Genevieve Elementary slides with a tribute to our first quarter habit leaders. Although Leader in Me feels a little different in our building this year, we are still focusing on and promoting the habits, and we wanted to honor those students that were true leaders in our building. Very much like the spring, teachers weren't able to take the trolley and go do a group delivery, so each teacher that nominated their student, they went and did the delivery. And if they were there when they delivered the sign, they tried to snap a quick photo with the child. And if they were not, the parents sent photos into us. So we have a variety of different picture poses. We'll take this down. All right, this month we have 3 featured teachers and 1 super staff. Our chocolate cheers board was overflowing. There wasn't a single space to put another shout out or a praise note to the staff. We really had to pull together as a team in a building and help one another out and cover, and people were very thankful and kind and grateful for others in the building. So Letitia Mercer, Megan Keeper, and Andrea Fritsch were our 3 featured teachers, and Mrs. Stephanie Drury was our super staff. And then we have 12 positive office referrals. We have Lindsay Boner, Rosalind Vineyard, Lincoln Palmer, Kylie Mitchum, Brayden Fopp, Lydia Brown. And on the bottom left, we have Lenora Rousey. She is actually one of our virtual students who was nominated. So that's why her photo looks a little different. And you can see she's in the screen in the background there. And then the certificates next to her in the photo. And then we have Jason Parker, Bryce Schumer, John McGonigal, Lucas Ram, and Xander Frank. Where's the rest of the stuff? Didn't say. Okay. I had Red Ribbon Week and Halloween happenings on there. I guess it didn't say, so it was on there when I left. But we also, in our building, did dress-up days throughout the week for Red Ribbon Week. And then Wednesday happened to be if you remember from last month, Mr. Kingery told you that we issued a self-care challenge to our staff. This afternoon at the faculty meeting, we drew the winner, and Letitia Mercer, it was her day. She was a feature teacher, and she was the self-care challenge winner. Mr. Kingery and I chipped in and got a $50 gift card for her to use. So congratulations to Letitia. And then also when we were drawing for fabulous prizes, she was also a fabulous prize winner, but she opted to let someone else take that prize. So I think Dr. Mercer should maybe take her to the voters. So some additional items that are happening at St. Genevieve Elementary. We too celebrated Veterans Day virtually. We had planned to participate with middle school and high school in the parade, but that was canceled due to circumstances that were out of our control. We also wanted to thank the board for granting a professional development day that allowed our teachers and staff to collaborate, catch up on things, learn new tech, software. We also had in-house experts that led these sessions, and although I was at home that day, I was checking in on after each session, and they were like, yes, this was awesome, this was very good. So I got really good feedback about what happened that day. We also had picture retakes, we had the flu clinic in our building, and this afternoon at our faculty meeting, we did thank you cards. They were each given a card, and they were asked to write a thank you, a little bit more than a shout out or a chocolate cheer, to someone in the school district. It didn't necessarily have to be in our building, telling them thank you for something. So those are going to be going out tomorrow. So when I kind of rifled through them, I think we have some going to every building and even maintenance, so that was pretty cool. Our student lighthouse team is organizing a canned food drive for the end of November through the beginning of December. They are also working on some Christmas dress up days. They are also working on a Hats for Haiti humanitarian project. I think they want to donate money to sponsor a student to be able to get an education in Haiti, so that's exciting. And then Mr. Kingery and I are working on some Christmas fun for our faculty and staff. So that's St. Genevieve Elementary.
Thank you. Good evening. We've had a lot going on over the last month too, and in addition to all the hard work that we've been doing, we've also had a chance to have some fun too. Specifically, what you're looking at here is Red Ribbon Week, and Mrs. Huffman, who serves as the countywide coordinator for Red Ribbon Week, is definitely the heart and soul of it in our building too. And despite the limitations that we have with when we get to see students and how we have to handle assemblies and social distancing, she did a great job of not only getting the message out to our students, but also making sure that they had fun with it too. And here you can see some of the dress-up days from that week. The first few days, we encouraged our students and faculty to wear red, of course, for Red Ribbon Week. And then the last few days of the week, we encouraged them to wear their Halloween costumes. It just happened to fall at the right time for that. So there are some of those that I wanted to share with you, and I also want to thank Mrs. Huffman for her hard work on that, and specifically in our building. And I know there are a lot of people that help out with that across the county and across the different buildings, but I wanted to make sure that she was recognized for her hard work there. Our Spotlight Award was just named this week, and that is Athena McLean. And you can see the comments there, and one of them that I really like is the second one. It says she has a magical power that allows her to be firm with her students while still showing them how much she cares for them. And if you know Athena, or if you've seen her in action with students, that is definitely a true statement. She is firm, she has high standards, she's demanding, but she goes about that in a way that encourages and motivates and uplifts students. And we know as educators that sometimes that causes a little discomfort, but she does it in a way to show that she loves and she cares about them, and her students really respond to that. So hats off to Athena, that was very well deserved. What's been going on lately? Of course, Red Ribbon Week, as I mentioned, parent-teacher conferences. I also want to thank you for the November 2nd PD Day, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. And we had our social studies mock election that involved almost our whole school, and that is really a neat project in my opinion, because for some of our students, that's their first exposure to their rights and their responsibilities as a citizen when it comes to voting. And one that's very special to me. I can remember the mock elections that I took part in it when I was in school, and some of you might as well. So I was really glad to see that we were carrying on that tradition. And our social studies teachers did a great job with that. One that I didn't mention there and should have is the work that we put into our building-wide professional development plan, and specifically Mr. Mueller, Mrs. Hain, Mrs. Jokers, and then the committee members that served with them. They did an excellent job of working on that for you guys. We appreciate that. What's coming up for us is the food drive, and that's going on this week and concludes at the end of the week. That is a general food drive of canned foods and non-perishable items. Not quite like the Thanksgiving baskets that high school does. This is a little more generic than that. And our students are, they're slowly easing up their efforts. So if any of them are watching, or their parents are watching, now would be a good time to kick it into gear. Also, we have our NWPA winter testing session coming up. We are spreading that out just a little bit more than we have in the past, so that our teachers can get a little more flexible with how they schedule those. You know, we're very careful about protecting our instructional time and making sure that our kids are learning in good solid units and there's not disruption to that. So we decided to open that up just a little bit more than usual to see if they can schedule in ways that can help protect that instructional time. And NHS Induction will be held on December 6th. And I plan to send you all email invitations to that, so you'll get some more information there. I told you I wanted to talk a little bit more about the November 2nd PD Day. And I know this is small and I know it's hard to read, but the details aren't important. The big concept is, and this goes back to what Lori was saying, about how we were able to rely on the professionals that we have already in the building. And she mentioned that teachers were willing to help each other out, ask questions, and we had a chance to solicit for ideas, for opinions. What do folks want to learn? What are some areas they're struggling with? And then turn that around and ask the experts in our building to cover that. So Chris and I, without even conversing, had the same idea that the two of our buildings should go together and create an agenda. And by the time we did, we were able to offer a whole slate of offerings for our faculty. And this would be 6 all the way through 12, and all kinds of different things. Self-care, classroom management, some very techy things, and just all different kinds of stuff. So I want to say hats off, because it's a really difficult thing sometimes to put yourself in front of your peers in that way. And these people did not hesitate at all. They were ready to present. They came to us with ideas. Some of them did, and some of them, when we asked, they were absolutely on board and jumped right in. So I want to thank them for that, but I also want to thank you for the opportunity to even have that day, and to the calendar committee as well. Thank you all very much for that. Finally, our positive office referrals for the week. If you've been paying close attention the last few months, you recognize some of the faces and the names. Some of the same folks are showing up over and over again because they're just doing a really good job of managing this year. And I don't want to get into the details of who did what here, but I want to tell you there's a whole handful of faces and names on this slide who were nominated simply because they're managing their academics in the way that we had hoped that they would. Some of these students are here because they haven't had a missing assignment all year long. And in this year, that's quite an accomplishment. So hats off to those guys. Let's mention them quickly. Robbie Moorfield, Gail Clemens, Seth Fisher, Sadie Greminger, Madison Henson, Sophia Hook, Jeremiah Coombs, Bennett Walls, Hayden Fontenot, Kirsten Reeves, Mason Trollinger, and Lillian Cross. Congratulations to those guys. And thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening.
Dr. Mercer, I know this will be no surprise to you, but I had the pleasure of voting for Ronald Reagan in my first mock election. I want to take a minute and kind of follow suit with what they've said, but I want to do it a little bit differently. Last week I had the opportunity to be out of town on some business, and being the nerd that I am, when I got back to the hotel room that night, of course, that town's board meeting was on local access cable. So I had to watch it, right? You just like, hey, how does the rest of the world work right now, you know? And it made me realize and appreciate the job you guys do, how well you do it. thank you for that, for listening to staff, listening to parents, listening to us. Most of the time it's complaint. That listening, that reaction, giving us that PD day on November 2nd, which was also a combination work day, was huge. It was critical. It meant the world of the staff. It meant a lot to me. And I can tell you, watching that community board meeting and knowing you guys the way I do, big difference, and it's a lot on your shoulders. And I thank you for that. So kudos to you, and thank you very much for all that you do. Getting on to what happened. The video I want to show you, if you haven't seen this, and it's probably one of the best kept secrets we have, if I get this to play, is the district championship, the district cross country meet for our boys. And those of you that know cross, you know you get a point for every place, and the lowest points win. And we knew it would be a tough race between us and Potosi. Now, at the end of the day, we managed to beat Potosi out by 8 points. The key for our kids was for every time we could pass a Potosi kid, we, of course, would diminish a point, and we would give them a point. So it's a net gain of 2 every time you pass them. So I'm going to show you this finish, if I can. I don't know what it doesn't have the little thing.
Julie's got it.
Julie, can you play, please? Stop. I want you to pay attention to Levi Wiegand's finish against Potosi. It won't be the first green guy you see come through, it'll be the next one. And watch this. 90 across the line. He got his chest out there, so it picked up his scanner up ahead of Potosi. 2 points right there for down to the finish. I love it because that's what we're facing with right now, and that adversity and that challenge, to see our kids go out and compete that way and ultimately qualify for state as a team, that to me was a phenomenal finish. And it's not something you see every day. And to have a high school student with the wherewithal of knowing how important that place and that position is in that moment and taking the appropriate action, that's huge, huge for us. So I wanted to give kudos to him and kudos to Coach Boyd, Sierra Boyd, for their hard work on that cross team and everything that they did this year. On the right-hand side, another breath of fresh air. We were able to move ahead with our mentor games for freshmen. We've changed them a little bit. As you can see, we've gone more to outdoor activities. Mr. Draper and Mrs. Staffen have done amazing work to make sure that regardless of the situation, because of course with blended it's more difficult, you've got to roll it over a multitude of days. Now everything doubles in time and frame and structure, and they're just doing a great job. And I love it because you always get to pick up on a little bit of your staff you didn't know. And for example, Mr. Draper was kind enough to bring me in the loop, and this is Bowman's advisory, has the highest total number of points with 42. And that's always interesting to me, because those of you that know her, you know that she's a tremendous artist. She's wonderful with the kids, but that woman is highly competitive. I mean, highly, and it just shows in what we do. Look at that. Also along the lines of record breaking, for those of you that don't know our Kenny game, although we ended up going down there and losing that game, it was perhaps one of the best football games I've seen our team play in a really, really long time. We went down there earlier in the year and got hammered by Kennett. We go down there again, we never quit, we never stop, and we actually make it a very competitive game. And I'm proud to say, as part of that, Mr. Eddie Boyer and Mr. Peyton Matthews combined for a 99-yard touchdown pass play, which ties the Missouri State record. And what was really neat about it is, of course, we're about on the half-yard line. You'll notice at the top of the screen, it's 2nd down and 22 yards to go for the first down. And not only do they convert the first down, if you actually pay attention to the pass, you'll see that he converts it right at the first down marker is actually what it's called. But it's just a tremendous play. So I wanted everybody to see this if you haven't had an opportunity to. There he shakes the tackle, and on he goes. 99 yards. I'm proud of our guys, and I'm proud of the work that they put in. And Coach White and his philosophy on that team, it seems like every year that team starts the season against tough teams, they go down, and they just don't quit fighting, they get better all year. And this year was no exception. Voice of Democracy, once again, Dr. Oldham did an amazing job with Voice of Democracy, and we took a first, second, and a third. First went to Madison Travis, second to Courtney Rector, and third to Alexis Slate. They are left to right as named. And of course, Madison will be going on to districts in Farmington. So again, thank you to Dr. Oldham, to those ladies for all their hard work. I appreciate it. Along the lines of hard work, man, I just cannot say enough for the role that Mr. Schweiss has played this year with Stuco. Every time it seems like they plan, they work, they do everything that they need to do, and they just sort of get knocked down a little bit by our current situation. and they just keep fighting. And Veterans Day was no different. They did do a meal pickup for the veterans. It was, he went out with some Stuco students. We did it with, I believe, Rotary and Volley as well, just to make sure that we could serve the veterans in our area. They did a lunch and I believe a sort of gift bag for all those. And I don't have all the businesses that donated and contributed, but I do want you to know it's a huge community effort. And I know that it didn't end up being everything that they wanted the Veterans Day celebration this year to be. It wasn't for any of us, but I was glad to see that we were able to do something for them and keep them in our minds and in our hearts. NHS Inductions again, era of COVID, but mask and all, they went through with it. I was grateful. Dr. Rowe contacted me about the possibility of continuing to do it. I was like, absolutely. And the nice thing about having somebody like Dr. Rowe and Mr. Schwinn is you trust their judgment, you trust their ability to put on an event like this and keep everybody safe and do it within sort of the guidelines. They did an excellent job with the inductions. We inducted 18 new members, which brings our members total to 47. And to me, that's a really healthy number for us, given the size of our school. And then the other thing that I'm really proud of with Dr. Rowe and Mr. Schwinn is they really hold to the integrity of NHS. Those 4 pillars, and they have not sold out on those 4 pillars. And that makes, I think, our NHS a little more genuine and a little more valid than other places that I particularly have been to personally. Just in the fact that those kids meet each of those 4 standards, and that is the toughest part of the application process. So there's some of the inductions and families. And the last thing I want to leave you with is some things that I'm exceptionally proud of that have gone on. With our grade level teams, we do a lot of attaboys and attagirls, so we don't have a lot of positive office referrals. It really takes somebody to stand up to get one. But Miss Alyssa Grass got one. It seems to always, funny, I have to read it on my computer screen, but this one seems to always have a smile or a good-hearted attitude. And I thought that was the best quote, because really when you go across the screen with these young ladies that I've been able to feature here, you could say that same thing for all of them. We got Miss Virginia Akins, who was the Elk Student of the Month. We got Miss Macy Reynolds, who was the Rotary Student of the Month. Unfortunately, that had to go down in a virtual format, but I love that they keep having a meeting, they keep promoting those students, and they keep going at it just as everything else. And finally, the very last one is SJHS's Emily Curtin, who on Friday, the 13th of all days, had a successful defense of her dissertation, and she was Dr. Emily Curtin. So congratulations to all of them. And on behalf of all of us, just a very simple happy Thanksgiving.
Mr. Honey, we were talking about elections and stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to know, I helped work the election polls, or the elections, and there were quite a few first-timers there.
You can
So-
thank Mr. Boba for that. He had actually going back to last year, he worked on a very coordinated effort to make sure we got all those young men and women registered and that we made them aware of the voting and all of that. And I am proud to say that I think all but like 3 of our seniors who were eligible to vote, we got registered to vote. So
That's great.
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. Mr. Haney and Dr. Boyd got those folks all registered. So I also worked polls, and there were a lot of first-time voters. So
Good.
thank you guys for
Good.
all your work.
The next item, and thank you to all the building principals, assistants, and everyone for everything that they're doing right now. We do have one safety report in the board packet. It is a fire, earthquake, emergency exit drill that took place in all 4 buildings. Then a few updates. I know the governor made the announcement, and I gave you all a copy of the flyer. Basically, that in schools, we're not seeing the virus spread at a rapid rate when people are wearing masks. And so, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, the governor, and DESE all came out and basically issued the guidance that in schools, if the COVID positive case and the close contacts are wearing a mask, the close contacts do not have to isolate. And gathered supports that, and we did provide that. We talked about it with our local health department. I did share it with the commissioners. I serve on her advisory panel. But this is the new guidance. Our county health department supports it. All of our local schools in St. Genevieve County are going to be following it. We actually have a meeting on Thursday with county health here at St. Gen to finalize some of the details on how the contacting is. County health's been making all the calls, but they're overwhelmed right now, so we're going to see how we might be able to support them and help them as they try to catch up and stay caught up. The other topic that I wanted to discuss, because I know Valley Catholic, I believe, has made the announcement that they will close the week of Thanksgiving. And from what I've heard, it's to do these things in their school. A lot of the NAAA schools have made that decision to transition to a virtual platform that week. I am not making that recommendation right now because we've kind of talked about it, and our thoughts are we want kids in school as long as possible. And so if we can provide them a normal Monday, Tuesday, half day on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we don't have as much concern having them here at school because we know it's a safe place. Our concern is after Thanksgiving, that 2-week period. So that's something we're going to have to watch very closely. So we want to keep them in school as long as we can right now, and then look at it after Thanksgiving and see where we're at. But it's like we were talking about today, based on our data, school's the safest place for these kids. We're not seeing a whole lot of transmission because of mask wear. What we are seeing is when a mask isn't worn. We have a few cases, but not a whole lot.
And I've had several adults in the community mention to me that on their way to work in the morning, they're driving by these bus stops and they're seeing these kids at the bus stops wearing masks, waiting to get on the bus. Every time I come down to get lunch, or every time I'm in the hallway and I see our kids, they have adapted to the situation and are doing what they need to do here at school. And for the most part, I think it's without question. Have you guys ran into any issues? And Dr. Fleeg and I were talking, if they can come to school and wear their masks and not pass on COVID to one another and be able to wash their hands and follow all the guidelines and get lunch and get some social interaction and be educated, that's where we need them to be. So that's kind of what we were kicking around today talking about.
So those are just a few of the updates. We're doing everything we can to keep the buildings open. And again, I want to recognize our admin team. When we can't find subs to fill every position, they are finding ways to get someone in the classroom, including going in themselves and subbing. So everybody is being very flexible. Is it always pleasant? No, but we have a great team doing everything we can to try to keep these buildings open.
I like the idea of after,
Yeah.
because there'll be bigger gatherings over Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I just think the after is better than.
Yeah, we'll definitely, stay in touch with county health, monitor it very closely, and watch our data to see if it's going to be necessary.
Well, I do know, I talked to that, what's his name, Bob, with, is that who it is? He was on the, what's up in St. Genevieve show last week, and he would, actually, they have a meeting tonight out at the community center.
Dr.
And-
Green's at that meeting.
Is she? Anyway, he pretty well, we were able to ask him, and I asked him several questions before, but he was saying that, because I asked, one of the questions I asked is, how come it takes so long to get the results? Some people might get them one day, and some might take 3 days or whatever. And he did say, I think he said they have 10 staff, and they're not able to, they have to do their jobs. And some of these other counties aren't doing some of those jobs, so those people are coming over here. So they're double doing. And I said, well, can you have volunteers? I would love to volunteer. Well, you just don't volunteer. I didn't realize, you know, it's the HIPAA laws and all that kind of stuff. You have to take like 2-day trainings and all that stuff. But they are long. I mean, they are really behind and
Yes. We recognize, we understand.
yes.
I've heard from the St. John County Health Director and a couple of county commissioners saying thanks, and of course I told them, don't thank me, thank you all. And some parents thanking us for doing what we've been doing as a district. So again, thanks to you all and your staffs for not only the mitigating factors that you're dealing with, but for what everyone does. Like we usually, when we're here at our meetings, see someone cleansing the office, bus drivers, and of course the kids who are wearing the masks. I know we've discussed trying to expand the number of days, and I think I see a lot of districts going the opposite direction right now. They're shutting down because they have so much going on, and we're able to maintain our blended atmosphere. So thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
And you mentioned our custodial staff.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. They're doing a deep clean sanitation every night. So, and we know it's a lot on them, but they risen to the challenge. They're doing everything they can to make sure everything's clean, sanitized, and ready to go the next day. So very proud of them too. And our tech department keeping all the devices up and running.
God bless them.
It's amazing how this virus changed. 1 month ago, we were talking about maybe possible going 4 days a week. Now, there's school districts all around us going virtual, so
Right.
it changes fast.
It sure does.
It sure does.
I wish, you said Dr. Green is at this virtual health department meeting, and I hope the conversation is, centered around masks. May not be the perfect answer, but it sure does help a whole lot with the spread. So, thank you all very much.
Okay, and that would be the end of my report.
Next, we have unfinished business, the set procedures for annual school board election.
Yes. So, I am going to just read my information directly to you.
Seems like we just had that.
Yeah, it seems like we did it like last week, but last year. So real quick, I'll just go over some quick information, then I'm gonna read the procedure. So the annual school board election will be held on Tuesday, April 6, 2021. We have 2 expiring terms, Mr. David Boba and Mrs. Joan Cook. Filing begins on December 15th at 8. It will continue Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. With some days, and I'll discuss that more, where the office will be closed during the weather. And then filing ends on January 19th, 2021 at 5 p.m. So, here goes. The annual school board election will be held on Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. A copy of this news release is attached. The expiring terms for board members are Mr. David Boba and Mrs. Joan Cook. Qualified applicants for the board may file a declaration of candidacy during regular business hours in the superintendent's office. According to board policy and state law, a candidate shall file his or her intent to become a candidate in person and in writing. Filing will begin on December 15, 2020 at 8 a.m. and will end on January 19, 2021 at 5 p.m. In between these dates and times, candidates may file during regular business hours, which are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please note that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, business hours are subject to change. Filing will not occur on days that the district office is closed due to inclement weather. Filing will also not occur on December 23rd, 24th, 25th, 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31 in 2020, and January 1st and 18th in 2021. Documents necessary to file as a candidate for the board may be secured in person at the superintendent's office, which is located at 375 North 5th Street in St. Genevieve, Missouri. Upon entering the district office, all candidates will be required to have their temperature checked and to wear a face mask throughout the entire filing process. The names of the qualified candidates shall be placed on the ballot in order of filing as identified in St. John R2 policy, board policy BBB-1, school board elections. You can visit our website at www.sgdragons.org or call 573-883-4500, extension 2004 for additional information.
I'll move to adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education authorizes an election to be held on Tuesday, April 6, 2021 to fill 2 3-year terms as directors of the St. Jude Board of Education. Furthermore, the notice of the election and certification of candidates shall be submitted to the county clerk in accordance with state statutes.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Eric Bosler.
Yes?
Mr. David Bowie, yes. Mrs. Joan Hook.
Yes.
Mr. James Kirshner.
Yes.
Mr. Terry McDaniel.
Yes.
Mrs. Martha B. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Richard Ruloff.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have new business, the annual audit.
And we should have Andrew from Clifton Larson Allen virtually.
So thank you. My name's Andrew Isabel. I'm with Clifton Larson Allen. Just a quick introduction about myself. I've been in public accounting for about 11 years. I started my career off at Larson Allen. I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers for about 7 years before rejoining CLA. I lead our state and local government practice here in Missouri, overseeing both our St. Louis, Kansas City offices. So I just want to say thank you guys for understanding my situation. I did have some COVID exposure with a family member, so I appreciate you guys being flexible with me and allowing me to present remotely. I'm going to go over the results of the financial statement audit for the period ending June 30th, 2020. During this presentation, I'll discuss the scope of the work, the status of our audit services, the results of our audit, our risk assessment process, and our required communications. Now, I have the materials that I provided to Julie in advance of this meeting, if you guys would like to follow along with me, but I will be presenting my screen, so hopefully you guys can see that. Please let me know if you cannot. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So I'll be moving to the executive summary page. I'll quickly highlight our scope of service this year. The first one here is an opinion on the district and the component unit, which is the foundation for the districts. These financial statements for the period ending June 30th, 2020. Included within our report as well is an examination report on the district's compliance with Missouri laws, specifically budgeting, attendance, and transportation. 3 and 4 are basically the single audit report. The district receives about $1.5 million, give or take, in federal funding associated with Title I, special education, IDEA cluster, and national school lunch. We have completed our audit. We have issued our opinion data today. A copy has been provided to Chris Ritter. The result of our audit is a unmodified, which is the cleanest possible opinion. We did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting, which we consider material weaknesses. For the purpose of this presentation, we communicate weaknesses in internal controls that we consider material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We noted none, and we identified no controls that are required to be communicated to those charged with governance. The results of our single audit procedures, again, we had an unmodified opinion. We did not identify any question costs, and there were no deficiencies over internal controls specific to those compliance requirements. The major federal program that we selected for testing was a special education cluster, IDEA. What we do is we rotate what programs we select for testing. So for example, last year we tested Title I. Next year we'll rotate to another program. The report on schedule of transportation disbursements, we determine that is fairly presented and there is no differences identified. Our report on compliance with state requirements, again, like we talked about, Missouri laws over budget, attendance, and transportation. Again, the organization was compliant with the Missouri state laws. And then just a quick little education about how we scope our audit and our areas of audit focus. This first one here is the risk of segregation of duties and controls. With a lot of the school districts, every single school district that I work on, and I work on about 10 throughout the state of Missouri, they all have limited individuals in the financial reporting and accounting functions. So there's always going to be a risk that there's override controls, there's lack of segregation of duties. So we always make sure that we have audit tests and procedures specific to making fraud and doing detailed testing over unusual transaction or journal entries, along with many other types of audit tests. In addition to that, specific to Missouri schools, there's a risk for fraud and revenue recognition specific to tax revenue and federal awards. So while we do a risk-based audit approach, and this is the areas of audit that we focus on, we still do testing over all of the other areas, which would include cash and debt, so on and so forth. Just some required communications here. I'm not going to read through all these, but material uncertainties, really there was none. We had great communication and cooperation with Chris Ritter. We've been doing this audit for an extremely long time, and we really have enjoyed working with her in this school district. Other material written communications included within the appendix to this report is our report to those charged with governance. Again, it's going to reiterate a lot to what I'm communicating to you during this meeting, but feel free to read through it at your leisure. The only really significant transaction during the year was the school district paid down $7.9 million in general obligation bonds. District has about $12.1 million in outstanding debt. Overall, the district is in strong financial position. No fraud or illegal acts, no adoption of new accounting standards, so overall pretty clean year. Non-compliance with laws and regulation, again, there was none. Qualities of the company's financial reporting and internal controls. Again, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies were identified. Whenever we work with our districts, I try to keep them up to speed on the industry, try to provide them with value-added services that go above and beyond what the standard audit is. Right now, as you guys have talked about during the meeting, navigating COVID is extremely difficult. There's a lot, and unfortunately, a lot of the funding that's been coming from the federal government, specific CARES funding, is also difficult to navigate. Well, it's not as difficult to navigate as COVID. There's not a lot of guidance over there on how to, what's allowable expenditures, what's not allowable. Unfortunately, and this is the way that I articulate, the people that aren't involved or have a good understanding of the CARES Act funding, it's like trying to build a plane while you're flying it. Said differently, the federal government's passing out all this money, and then they're telling you months, weeks after how you should spend this money. The last slide that I'll cover here is the impact of CARES funding. This should be, from the financial perspective, probably one of the areas of top of mind for the district and all the districts in Missouri. There's 4 specific awards or CARES funding type of programs that are outstanding. I have talked with Chris Ritter through a handful of these. I believe there's 4 here that I've outlined, and I believe St. Genevieve is taking advantage and the benefits associated with all 4 of these. Again, the cost of COVID is expensive, and I suggest that the district do what they can to try to get involved and get their opportunities to get a portion of this CARES Act funding. The reason I bring this up is navigating the CARES Act awards is difficult due to delays in guidance. Within the schedule of federal expenditures in the current period, there was only about $200,000 to $300,000 worth of CARES Act funding that were included. I would expect this number for fiscal year 2021 to significantly increase. As you move through the rest of this presentation, we go on to the appendix. Again, this is just our report to those charged with governance. Please feel free to read it at your leisure, but that is the end of my presentation. If you guys have any questions or need any clarification, again, I'm here to address any questions that you might have.
What's that? Very good audit. Any questions? We have no questions, but thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'll move to approve the annual audit for the 2019-2020 school year as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have beverage supplies and products proposal.
Okay. That would be me again. We currently have an agreement with Pepsi Beverages Company. That agreement expires on December 31st, 2020. So we did put out a request for proposals and sought proposals, bids basically. Posted it, and we're looking at a 5-year term, January 1st, 2021 through December, actually 31st, sorry, of 2025. And I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. So we did receive bids from Pepsi and then Heartland CocaCola. So I know the numbers are small here, but I'll go through them. This is just kind of a basic overview of the proposals. Pepsi is in the middle, Heartland Coke is on the right. They both have an annual increase of 4%. The annual support funds that Pepsi would donate would be $2,500 annually. Heartland Coke would donate $7,500 annually over the life of the 5-year contract. That's the annual donation. Pepsi offers something called a sideline kit fund, $250 annually. And if you think about sidelines, think about sports. So that's like the powdered Gatorade for the big, coolers, things, and cups. They also offer free goods of 100 cases annually, a $950 value to the district. Coke did not have specifics on their proposal, but said donations are available for mutually agreed upon activities. So I would want to identify that with Coke and make sure it's in the contract. Vending commissions, Pepsi is 30%, Coke is 20%. Volume commitment, Pepsi's commitment is 10,625 cases over the life of the contract. Coke's is 15,525. Commission payments come from Pepsi every 4 weeks, and Coke's would come at the end of the agreement year. Both offer free equipment, free installation, and free maintenance. So, the next items we're looking at are bidding price increases. Both companies said in year 3 there would be an increase of 25 cents. And then I put together, they both had a product pricing comparison. So 20-ounce carbonated soft drinks with Pepsi would be $1.75. Heartland Coke would be $1.25. 20-ounce like the regular water would be $1.75. With Pepsi, $1.25. With Coke. And these are bid prices, by the way. Juice products, 10-ounce with Pepsi would be $1.75, 12-ounce with Coke is $1.75, and 18.5-ounce teas, $1.75 with Pepsi and Coke. Sports drinks, Pepsi has a 12-ounce drink at $1.75. Coke offers Powerade 20-ounce at $1.50 and Body Armor at 16-ounce at $1.75. And both have 20-ounce specialty water equipment and products from Heartland Coca-Cola. Right now, we do have a Pepsi contract. I'm recommending that we move back to Coke because it offers greater financial benefit for the district. The other part of this recommendation, I'm asking you for two things. I would like to explore extending the contract with Coke 6 months, so it expires on June 30th, 2026, so it would be a 5.5-year contract. And that's because this contract is expiring in December. We've given a deadline of January 12th to get everything, all the Pepsi equipment out, the Coke equipment in and ready, and we're gonna be in the middle of basketball season and wrestling. So we're not sure how that transition is going to go, especially with our concession stands. We have Pepsi products that are purchased and in the concession stands. So we would probably go ahead and sell what we have on hand. But making the transition in the middle of the school year is not a good, ideal thing. It would be much better if we could do this during the summer and give ourselves the month of July and part of August to get ready. So that's what I'm asking, if it would be okay if I explored that with Coke. And the other thing is to possibly also see if we could adjust that commission rate because Pepsi wasn't going to offer 30%. To at least try to negotiate. Any thoughts?
I'm fine.
What, I don't know, I guess they all got about the same products. Coke's got Powerade, this is Gatorade.
Gatorade, pretty
I
much.
guess you lose your Mountain Dew.
You lose your Mountain Dew, you lose your Kickstart here at the high school.
What is Coke, what's their energy drink? I don't know.
They both have very nice proposals with color. Sparkling water. They have enhanced waters. I don't know that they really offer an energy type drink to schools.
Like Coke energy. I've seen.
Well, and we're pretty restricted on what we can fit in every building. So there, I don't see it right now. But I would share this with you later on, so you can press on the difference in products. But very interesting to try to go through the first time.
I move to approve the following goals for beverage equipment and products as presented. Portland, Coca-Cola bottle.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have research first grade report card revisions.
Okay, I'm gonna do the best I can with this, but I may have to defer to this after this Tuesday. But they are presenting to you for tonight a revised report card for first grade, for first semester only. Just a quick summary of the revisions. There will be no changes to math. They would combine phonics and spelling. And changes to quarter 1 and quarter 2 descriptors. No changes to language arts. Changes to quarters 1 and 2 descriptors for reading. No changes to conduct, handwriting, arts, music, and physical education. And I believe these changes are necessary in phonics, spelling, and reading due to curriculum updates and revisions that have taken place over the past 2-3 years. Okay. Anything else that I missed you want to discuss?
Well, I think that's it. Our first grade, well, we've been working on ELA curriculum and we're almost finished with it minus assessments. And because of the pacing guide, the objectives were not in order. So we just have to change it to make them in order.
I'll move to approve the revisions to the first grade report card as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have action for a closed meeting.
I move that the Board of Education hold a I further move that notice of the meeting and the tentative agenda be posted as required by law.
Second.
Have a motion, and a second, roll call, Eric Baltimore,
Yes.
David Wolf,
Yes.
Tom Wood, Steve Kirschner,
Yes.
Reverend Daniel, yes, Martha Luther,
Yes.
Richard Rudolph,
Yes.
motion carried 7-0.
I'll move to go to closed session and close record and close vote after a short break.
So a motion and a second, all in favor?